What if the zodiac sign you thought was just about grinding for success was actually the ancient guardian of life's ultimate threshold? Between death and immortality, stay with me, because by the end of this you'll never see Capricorn the same way again, and the final revelation about the Forbidden Gate will hit you like a cosmic wake-up call. Capricorn has always been more than a simple zodiac sign. It is one of the oldest archetypes humanity has carried across myth, scripture, and sacred geometry, and yet its true story has been obscured. Most people today know Capricorn only as the ambitious, disciplined mountain goat who steadily climbs toward worldly success. But hidden beneath that familiar image lies a far older myth, one that speaks not just of ambition, but of gates, guardians, and the mysteries of immortality. In truth, Capricorn was once seen as the creature who stood before the forbidden's threshold, the goat who guarded the gate between human mortality and divine eternity. If we look back to the ancient skies, we discover that Capricorn has been present in human consciousness since Babylonian times. The figure was not simply a goat, but a sea goat, a creature of paradox with the body of a mountain-climbing beast and the tail of a fish descending into primordial waters. This duality already hints at a deeper mystery. Capricorn, as the union of above and below, surface and depth, sky and sea, the known and the unknown. What other sign carries within it both the sharp hooves that pierce stone and the tail that vanishes into hidden oceans of time? This is why the ancients placed Capricorn not just on the mountain but at the gateway, the Forbidden Gate, where mortal travelers must decide whether to climb upward into light or descend downward into shadow. And this gateway was not symbolic, only ancient traditions across cultures told of thresholds that few could cross: the gates of Hades in Greece, the doors of Osiris in Egypt, the starry gateways marked by Saturn in Rome and Mesopotamia. Capricorn was always present at these points of crossing. To the uninitiated, it was a terrifying figure, the stern keeper of the gate, the one who measured whether you were worthy to pass. To the wise, it was the guardian of the soul's next stage, the sign that no rebirth could occur without first facing death, trial, and limitation. That is why Capricorn's myth has been both revered and feared. It is the place of endings and beginnings, of judgment and redemption, of the weight of time pressing upon the soul. In this video, we will uncover the untold story of Capricorn, not the simple goat climbing a corporate ladder, but the ancient archetype of the goat who guarded the Forbidden Gate. To understand Capricorn is to understand why humanity has always feared the boundaries of time, death, and destiny, and why hidden behind those fears lies the key to transformation. High above the valleys where mortals dwell, there has always been the image of the goat on the mountain. This is where Capricorn begins, not in the ordinary paths of daily life, but in the daunting slopes that rise toward heaven itself. The goat is relentless, a creature that climbs where no one else dares. In this image, the ancients saw more than an animal. They saw the soul of humanity itself, struggling upward against gravity, against hunger, against despair, toward a summit few could reach. In myth, mountains have always been the place where the divine makes itself known. Moses ascended Mount Sinai to hear the voice of God. The Greeks placed their immortal pantheon upon Olympus, high above mortal eyes. The Mesopotamians built ziggurats to mimic the mountain stairways to heaven, carved into the earth. And across all of these traditions, the goat became the creature most capable of standing upon those impossible heights. Capricorn then was not a sign of mere success or ambition. It was the emblem of initiation, an eternal reminder that enlightenment cannot be found in valleys of comfort, but only in the treacherous climb toward truth. The climb of Capricorn is not gentle. The rocks are sharp, the air grows thinner with every step, and the path narrows until one misstep could mean death. This is why the goat has always symbolized resilience and endurance. To become like Capricorn is to embrace trial after trial, to continue moving upward even when every bone aches and every breath burns. The mountain is not just a physical place, it is the metaphor for destiny itself. Each of us is born in the valley, and each of us feels the faint pull of a summit above calling us to ascend. But here lies the paradox: the mountain does not care who you are, It does not bend for kings, nor does it soften for beggars the same harsh slopes. Await all who climb, and this is what makes Capricorn both feared and revered. It is the impartial law of effort and consequence. To rise is possible, but only through discipline, patience, and the courage to face solitude, for the summit cannot be crowded. It allows only the few who dare endure the silence of the heights. The ancients whispered that the goat who reaches the peak gains more than vision. It becomes a guardian of wisdom, one who can look down upon the whole of human life with clarity. Capricorn was therefore not a creature of ambition in the modern sense, but of guardianship, standing between the mortal struggle below and the divine mysteries above. The goat on the mountain is not climbing for itself alone, it is climbing to guard the path for others, to become the sentinel of the heights. In Capricorn, we see the eternal truth. The climb is hard, the mountain merciless, but only through that climb does one approach the forbidden gate of wisdom, and the goat, ever climbing, shows us that the summit is not unreachable. It is simply hidden behind the price of endurance. If the goat on the mountain represents endurance and the will to ascend, then the force that shapes Capricorn's destiny is Saturn, the ancient god of time, boundaries, and the relentless weight of law. To understand Capricorn, one cannot ignore Saturn, for it is the planet that rules the sign and imbues it with its stern, uncompromising nature. In Roman myth, Saturn was both a god of abundance and a god of terror. He was remembered as the ruler of a golden age when humanity lived in peace without toil or war. Yet Saturn also carried a darker face, one that devoured his own children, so that none could surpass him. This paradox, giver of bounty and devourer of life, lies at the very heart of Capricorn's myth. For Capricorn, like Saturn, stands as both the guardian of wisdom and the enforcer of limitation. Time is the truest shadow of Saturn. No matter how high the goat climbs, the ticking of the cosmic clock follows close behind. Time reduces kingdoms to dust, empires to ruins, and even the loftiest mountain climber must one day face descent. This is why Capricorn has always been feared as much as it has been revered. It carries within its energy the inevitability of mortality, the cold reminder that no life escapes the laws of time. But Saturn's shadow is not cruelty, it is initiation. Just as the mountain tests the strength of the climber, Saturn tests the worth of the soul. It asks, have you endured? Have you learned patience? Have you accepted responsibility for your actions? For without these qualities, the gate guarded by Capricorn will remain closed. To face Saturn is to face oneself stripped of excuses, masks, and illusions. It is to stand before the great mirror of time and see clearly what you have built and what you have wasted. Ancient astrologers often called Saturn the greater malefic, a planet of sorrow, heaviness, and trial, yet they also recognized it as the great teacher, the one that through hardship grants true wisdom. Capricorn inherits this duality. The sign is often described as cold, serious, or even ruthless, but beneath that exterior is the deeper truth. Capricorn embodies Saturn's gift of endurance, the ability to withstand the storms of fate until the soul has earned the right to ascend. When we speak of the forbidden gate, it is Saturn who stands at its entrance, the god with the scythe, the keeper of cycles, the judge who weighs the deeds of mortals against the scale of time. To pass through this gate is not easy, nor is it meant to be, but those who endure Saturn's trials, those who face the shadow without turning away, are the ones who find that the gate does not destroy them, it transforms them. Thus, the shadow of Saturn is not the end of the story, it is the stern face of destiny, the presence that demands seriousness, discipline, and humility. And in Capricorn, Saturn whispers a truth that cannot be ignored. Only by accepting the weight of time can one hope to pass into eternity. Before Capricorn became the simple mountain goat we know in modern astrology, it was far stranger, far more mysterious. The earliest image recorded in Babylonian star maps was not just a goat, but a sea goat, half mountain climbing beast, half fish of the deep. This hybrid creature unsettled the imagination, for it belonged neither entirely to the earth nor entirely to the sea. It was an in-between, a paradox, and therefore a guardian of Hidden mysteries. The body of the goat represented strength, perseverance, and the climb toward the divine summit, but the tail of the fish dragged Capricorn into other realms, the primordial waters that the Babylonians believed surrounded the world. These were not gentle waters, but the chaotic depths where monsters swam and forgotten gods slept. To depict a creature as both goat and fish was to admit that it moved between extremes, the highest rock of heaven and the darkest abyss of the underworld. This strange dual form connects Capricorn with Enki, the Sumerian god of wisdom, who is often depicted as a figure with the tail of a fish. Enki was the lord of fresh waters, knowledge, and hidden truths like Capricorn. All of these myths echo Capricorn's role, the goat who stands at the threshold, forcing us to face the end so that we may find renewal. To walk the Capricorn path is to accept this paradox. What dies is not wasted but transformed. The mountain climb demands sacrifice, shedding what is heavy, what no longer serves, so that the soul may ascend. The fishtail descent demands courage, entering the waters of grief, shadow, and silence, so that hidden wisdom may rise. Both directions lead to the same truth. There is no rebirth without death, and there is no immortality without surrender. Capricorn teaches that the end is never truly an end. Each descent into darkness prepares the way for a greater light. Each burden carried through Saturn's trials becomes the seed of wisdom. Each moment when life forces us to let go of identity, of possessions, of illusions, becomes a passage through the forbidden gate, and while the passage feels terrifying, what lies beyond it is a new horizon unseen until we had the courage to step forward psychologically. This death and rebirth cycle plays out within every individual. We are forced to die to our old selves when we confront failures, heartbreaks, or losses. We resist, we mourn, but eventually we are reborn into a self that is stronger, clearer, and more capable of carrying the weight of our destiny. Capricorn energy whispers in these moments, do not fear the ending, for it is the threshold to the beginning you cannot yet imagine. Thus the Capricorn path is not one of despair, but of initiation. The goat does not guard the gate to punish. It stands there to remind us that only those willing to pass through death can discover the rebirth that follows. Capricorn is not simply a sign of ambition or endurance, it is the archetype of the soul's greatest transformation, the passage from what is temporary into what is eternal. We have walked through the ancient layers of Capricorn, the goat on the mountain, the shadow of Saturn, the sea goat plunging into the underworld, the stern guardian of the forbidden gate, the bearer of authority, and the initiator into death and rebirth. Each image has shown us that Capricorn is far more than the sign of ambition and discipline that modern astrology often reduces it to. It is at its core the story of the soul standing before the most sacred threshold of all. The forbidden gate is not some distant mythic portal locked away in temples of the past. It is a reality each of us encounters in our own lives every time we face the end of something we thought would last forever, every time we are forced to let go of who we once were, every time we step into the terrifying unknown of change. We are standing before Capricorn's gate. The question is not whether we will encounter it, but whether we will be ready when it appears. Capricorn demands preparation. It demands integrity, responsibility, and endurance. It demands that we shed illusions and carry only what is essential. It does not reward shortcuts, and it does not bend for excuses. But if we are willing to endure its trials, if we are willing to climb with the goat and dive with the fish, the gate begins to open, not as punishment, but as invitation. This is why Capricorn has always been both revered and feared. Revered because it is the guardian of transformation. Feared because it forces us to face time, mortality, and limitation. And yet the wisdom of this myth is simple. Endings are not obstacles, they are initiations. The goat who guards the gate is not there to keep us out, it is there to make sure we are ready to step through. So the next time you hear Capricorn described only as the sign of discipline, patience, or ambition, remember the deeper story. Remember the sea goat who belongs to both mountain and ocean. Remember Saturn, the stern keeper of cycles. Remember the forbidden gate. The threshold every soul must one day face, and most of all remember that what waits on the other side of that gate is not death, but transformation, Capricorn whispers to us. Still the gate is forbidden, not because it will never open, but because only the transformed may enter. That is the timeless secret of the goat, who stood watch at destiny's door, and it is the secret we are each destined to encounter in our own lives. So here's the game-changing truth. You've been waiting for the forbidden's gate isn't out there in some ancient myth. It's the very next crisis, loss, or ending staring you in the face right now. Embrace it, endure it, transform through it, and you'll step into a version of yourself the ancients would call immortal. Hit that like button if this flipped your view of Capricorn. Subscribe for more hidden zodiac truths, and comment below, what gate are you facing today? He was the one who descended into the depths to bring back secrets for humanity. In this myth we see the deeper side of Capricorn. Not just a climber, but a diver willing to plunge into darkness in order to retrieve the wisdom that lies there. Sea goat is therefore more than a symbol of ambition. It is the archetype of initiation. Through paradox to ascend you must first descend, gain the crown of the mountain. You must endure the chaos of the ocean. The goat climbs, but the fish swims downward, and only by holding both directions can Capricorn embody its true power. This is why the ancients placed the sea goat at the winter solstice, the darkest point of the year. The sun had descended into the underworld, but from that descent would come the slow rebirth of light. The underworld connection also explains Capricorn's role as a guardian of forbidden's gates. The tale marks it as a creature that knows the passageways of death, those silent corridors where souls wander after leaving the body. In myth, guardians of the underworld are often hybrid beings, half one thing, half another, because they belong to thresholds, not to single realms. Capricorn's form tells us this is no ordinary goat. This is the sentinel who knows the paths of both ascent and descent. When we encounter Capricorn in our own lives, we too feel this paradox. We are called to rise, but we are also dragged into depths. We would rather avoid grief, fear, shadow, limitation, yet in facing these depths, we gain the wisdom to climb higher. The sea goat teaches us that the forbidden's gate cannot be approached by those who seek only light. It can only be crossed by those who have first learned to endure the waters of the underworld. Throughout human history, myths have spoken of gates, thresholds that few could pass, doors that marked the boundary between one state of being and another. In Greece, there were the gates of horn and ivory, through which dreams entered the world. In Mesopotamia, there were the 7 gates of the underworld, each guarded by beings of terrible power. In Egypt, the soul had to pass through 12 gates on its journey through the night, each one demanding secret words of truth. The idea of a forbidden's gate has haunted every culture, and behind it always stood a guardian in the zodiac. That guardian is Capricorn. Capricorn is the sign that sits at the cusp of the winter solstice, the darkest moment of the year. To the ancients, this was no ordinary turning point. It was the forbidden's threshold between death and rebirth. The sun itself was seen as entering a gate at this time, descending into the underworld, only to emerge slowly on the other side with the promise of light. Capricorn, therefore, was the zodiacal figure placed at that cosmic door, watching to see who was prepared to enter and who must remain outside. The forbidden's gate is not merely a passage of space, but of transformation. To step through is to leave behind what you were and to enter into what you must become. This is why Capricorn's archetype is stern, unyielding, and uncompromising. It does not open for those who have not paid the price. The gatekeeper demands proof of discipline, sacrifice, and integrity. Without them, the path forward remains barred. In this sense, Capricorn is not an enemy, but a test. It ensures that only those who are ready can cross the line between mortality and immortality. Myth after myth reflects this. Orpheus, who tried to cross the gates of Hades to rescue Eurydice, was tested by the one command not to look back, and he failed. In Egypt, the Book of the Dead describes gates where guardians asked questions of the soul, questions that could not be answered unless one had lived truthfully. Even in biblical texts there are references to narrow gates and watchful keepers, emphasizing that the passage to the divine is not for the careless. Capricorn embodies all of these archetypes at once. It is the narrow, stony path, and the guardian who ensures only the prepared may walk it. The forbidden gate is also psychological. Each human being faces it in moments of profound change. The loss of a loved one, the shattering of an old identity, the confrontation with mortality. These are moments when we stand at a threshold, unable to go back, yet fearful of what lies ahead. Capricorn appears in such moments not as comfort, but as necessity. It demands that we face reality as it is stripped of illusions. And only then will the gate open. The ancients were wise in making Capricorn a hybrid creature for the sea goat, shows that the forbidden gate requires balance between extremes. It is not enough to climb the mountain of ambition, one must also descend into the waters of the subconscious. The gate only opens for those who have integrated both ascent and descent, both shadow and light. That is why the sea goat, with its hooves on rock and its tail in the depths, is the perfect symbol of the guardian. To stand before Capricorn's forbidden gate is to feel the weight of eternity pressing against the fragile span of a human life. It is to know that there are mysteries too vast to be approached casually, yet it is also to feel the call to realize that beyond the threshold lies not destruction, but transformation. The goat does not guard the gate to keep us out forever. It guards it so that we may enter only when ready, only when we have become strong enough to bear the light that waits on the other side. If the forbidden gate is the place of trial, then Capricorn is also the judge who decides who may pass for centuries. This sign has carried the symbolism of crowns, thrones, and the burden of law authority. In the archetype of Capricorn is never casual. It is heavy, and it demands responsibility. As much as power in the ancient world, kingship was often tied to mountains and goats. The horned crown itself is a memory of the goat's horns, a symbol of authority drawn from nature's most relentless climber. A king was not simply a ruler by birth. He was the one who had climbed higher, endured more, and carried the weight of the realm to where the crown was to carry the judgment of gods and men alike. And here, Capricorn's lesson becomes clear. Authority is not a privilege, but a burden. But Capricorn's authority is double-edged. On one side, it represents justice, order, and stability. On the other, it can harden into tyranny, oppression, and cold judgment. The goat, who guards the gate, may protect the sacred path, but it may also deny passage to those who are not ready, and sometimes the very weight of authority can turn the guardian into an obstacle rather than a guide. This is why Capricorn energy is often misunderstood as harsh, distant, or unyielding. It is not cruelty, it is the stern necessity of responsibility. In mythology, figures tied to Capricorn's archetype always bear this weight. Think of Cronus, the Greek equivalent of Saturn, whose reign was both golden and oppressive, or Moses on the mountain carrying the commandments down from Sinai, bound forever to the role of lawgiver, or Osiris, the Egyptian judge of the dead, weighing the hearts of souls against the feather of truth. All of these figures embody the Capricornian weight, the solemn task of deciding who is worthy, who is ready, and who must face further trials. Psychologically, this weight manifests within us as the inner voice of conscience, the stern inner judge that reminds us of our duties, our responsibilities, and the consequences of our actions. For some it feels like a prison, for others like a guide. In truth, it is both. Authority, whether external or internal, is not meant to comfort. It is meant to shape, to forge, to discipline. The law of Capricorn is impartial. It grants reward where effort has been made, but it does not hesitate to expose weakness where truth has been ignored. And yet, beneath the severity of Capricorn's authority lies a hidden mercy. For the goat at the gate is not judging to condemn. It is judging to prepare. It denies the unready so that they do not destroy themselves on the other side. It weighs our hearts so that when we finally cross, we are capable of enduring the mysteries that await. Authority in this sense is not an enemy, but a guardian of transformation. Thus the weight of Capricorn is the weight of destiny itself. To accept its authority is to embrace the reality that freedom is not given lightly, it is earned, and only by carrying this weight with integrity Can one step through the forbidden gate? Every myth of Capricorn ultimately leads to one truth: to guard the forbidden gate is to stand at the boundary of death and rebirth. No other sign in the zodiac holds this position so powerfully. Capricorn, stationed at the winter solstice, is the sign that presides over the longest night of the year, the symbolic death of the sun. Yet it is from this very darkness that light is reborn. Capricorn does not simply mark an ending, it marks the beginning that can only emerge through ending. The ancients understood this deeply. In Egypt, Osiris ruled as the lord of the underworld, guiding souls through death so that they might rise again in a higher form. In Greece, Persephone descended each year into the darkness, her absence bringing winter, her return signaling the renewal of spring. Even in Christian tradition, Christ descends into death before resurrection, proving that eternal life is found only by passing through the gate of mortality.